This week's special report into the Anzac Day dawn service.
Cockburn City Council crackdown on illegal lodging houses.
Aboriginal Film Festival inspire youths to participate in film productions.
And Irish people pause to commemorate the 1916th Revolution.
This is the Evening News with Ivan Leung and Danielle Staniskov.
Good evening. Thursday's week, Australians paused to remember the soldiers and war veterans who sacrificed their lives over the years. Major memorial services were held across Australia, with approximately 40,000 people attended the dawn service at Kings Park. Josef summarises the event.
The atmosphere of the 99th Anzac Day Memorial Service was solemn as approximately 40,000 Perth citizens packed into Kings Park at dawn. ABC 720 radio announcer Jeff Hutchinson started the ceremony by giving a formal address. This was then followed by the laying of wreaths and the last post. Several dignitaries such as the West Australian Governor-General Malcolm McCusker, Premier Colin Barnett, Opposition Leader Mark McGowan and Perth Lord Mayor Lisa Scafidi all laid wreaths along with many retired soldiers.
Thousands came out to the Anzac Day dawn service on Friday. So many were eager that a lady camped out the night before the service at 9 p.m. just to witness the experience.
We've never been to one before, and it's always been something that we wanted to go to, and it's been important to us. Being Australian, and it's definitely important.
The youth were also a part of the crowd, and some were lucky enough to be wearing medals.
I feel like I had to come because it's a part of the history of the Defence Force, and I'm a part of a RAF family, so it's a little bit of a part of me.
After the dawn service, there was a major parade at Perth St George's Terrace. Crowds cheered on as the Army, Navy personnel and former war veterans marched on the street. Josef Barker, WAMN News.
And this week, Chief Reporter Howard Sattler interviews Graham Edwards from the RSL to talk about his views towards this year's Anzac dawn service.
Graham Edwards, he's the president of the WA branch of the RSL. Graham, this is one of the biggest dawn services in the country. Why do you think so many Sandgrovers respond to the call?
Howard, I think because Kings Park is an iconic location. It's probably one of the nicest places to attend a dawn service anywhere in the world. I think that's one of the reasons why we have probably the biggest dawn service in the world.
So Graham, as I said, the things have been building towards the 100th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings next year. Are you concerned a bit this is reaching a climax and numbers will decline after that?
Look, I'd hope not, Howard, because we need to extend the commemoration over the 4 years, but there's no doubt that there will be a major peak of interest on Anzac Day next year. I think the challenge for us is to ensure that people don't have commemoration fatigue, and by 2018, forget about the commemoration.
As a Vietnam veteran, how do you feel about the accolades now given to your colleagues, contrasting with what happened when many of you came back from Vietnam?
Well, it's many years too late, but I would hope that most Vietnam veterans have moved on. We've had the Welcome Home Parade, of course, since then, and I think most Vietnam veterans would know that they're welcome in our community today, welcome into our RSLs. Things have certainly changed, but one of the things that has changed, Howard, is that we've learnt from those years, and we now treat our returning men and women much better than Vietnam veterans were ever treated.
Because later this year, the remembrances of World War I will switch to Albany. That was the last departure point for most Anzacs heading to Gallipoli. What's planned there?
Oh, that'll be a big weekend, Howard. There'll be a nationally broadcast. That's the first weekend in November. There'll be a national broadcast of the service down there. There'll be a commemoration of the departure. There'll be the opening of the National Anzac Centre down there, and there'll be a whole range of other events. And of course, Albany is such an iconic location in itself, because as you know, that's where so many young Australians left in 1914, and the last landfall they saw of their home country was Albany.
Looking forward to the rest of today?
Yes, mate, I'm looking forward to it. It's a big day, and I just hope that everyone turns out to give the old diggers the support they warrant.
Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Good on you, Howard. Lovely to see you, mate.
A protest against the WA government's controversial drumline policy was held in Cottesloe Beach on Sunday morning. Protesters who attended the rally expressed their disgust towards the government's policy and demanded the drum lines to be taken out of water.
Yeah, we had about 150 to 200 people come down this morning, which for a Sunday morning on effectively a long weekend, it was great. Effectively what we were doing was saying thank you to the on-water crews, letting fisheries know that we're still here and that we're still opposed to the drum lines.
The Cockburn City Council increased their effort to shut down illegal lodging houses. A property owner in Auburn Grove has been fined almost $16,000 after he was convicted at the Fremantle Magistrates Court.
An Auburn Grove property owner has been convicted and fined over $15,000 plus $7,500 in court fees at Fremantle Magistrates Court on the 27th of March 2014. City of Cockburn Director of Planning and Development, Danielle, spoke with us on the issue.
A person has gone and converted an existing residential dwelling into a lodging house and has been renting it out for people to actually use.
A crackdown operation by the City of Cockburn's Health, Building and Planning team on unsafe lodging houses has resulted in the house being found to be unfit for habitation and unapproved for use as a lodging house. The owner is currently residing outside of Australia. Neighbours were reluctant to speak on camera, but have confirmed there was an issue of overcrowding at the lodging house.
All the smoke alarms had actually all been disconnected. One of the existing rooms in the house had been converted into 2 separate rooms. And as I indicated before, he was in the process of actually converting the garage into 2 separate bedrooms.
The council reminds property owners they must seek all the required approvals before they change the use of their property to avoid penalties. Martin Wilson, WAMN News.
In other local news, the Aboriginal Malia Uteringul Be a Star Film Festival was launched in Fremantle this week. The aim of the project is to encourage youths to learn and participate in filmmaking activities. Kids from 6 communities in regional WA showcased their movies at the Fremantle Arts Centre.
Well, in the Western Desert region, a little bit of background for this project. It started because of, there was a lot of sleuthing and petty crimes in the community. So the modern people said we need to set up an organization, a program for all the kids. The stories, the youth, when you give them a pencil and a paper and a camera, they come up with fascinating stories, and they, we just let them, experiment and, come up with ideas, and then they go out and, make those films.
To World News, a 4-year diplomatic nightmare between the Philippines and Hong Kong has come to an end. Both countries released a joint statement this week saying the Manila hostage crisis of 2010 is finally resolved. Hong Kong Chief Executive C.Y. Leung made the announcement while the Philippine government expressed its most sorrowful regret and profound sympathy over the incident.
Concerning tourist safety measures, the Philippine government has assured the Hong Kong external government that it is committed to ensuring that such an incident will not recur. The Philippine government has also implemented a range of measures to guarantee the welfare and safety of those visiting the Philippines.
The Irish Republic Memorial was held around the world to remember those who paid the ultimate price for Ireland's freedom in 1916. The names of the victims were read out, followed by a minute of silence. The organisers said the Irish Memorial attendance in Perth has risen over the past few years.
I think it's the longest struggle in the world for independence, and it means a lot to Irish people. There's so many, in that 1800 years, there's been so many insurrections and uprisings, and they all ended in failure, a lot of them ended in failure. But this is very important. That was the most decisive moment.
And here's Cahli Samata with a summary of this week's top stories in science.
Thank you, Ivan. After receiving more than 9,500 submissions, the Environmental Protection Authority has decided to assess the extended shark mitigation program. The EPA has set a public environmental review level of assessment with a 4-week public submission period. The assessment of the environmental impacts of the policy will determine whether these impacts can be managed to meet the EPA's objectives for marine fauna. Early results of a survey of lakes in the Perth metropolitan area suggest that more than 80% contain only introduced species of fish, and a small 5 to 10% contain a mixture of native and introduced species. Fisheries officers are now attempting to eradicate introduced species from some sites, such as Lake Marmion in Myrie, where an attempt is underway to remove the eel-tailed catfish. This catfish carries a bacterial disease never before seen in Australia, and Department of Fisheries Aquatic Biosecurity Officer Bruce McKay says it is an aggressive predator which has been breeding like crazy. At Perth Zoo, an Australian shingleback skink gave reptile keepers a surprise when it gave birth to 2 babies. The skink was confiscated from smugglers at Perth Airport late last year and has since shared an enclosure with another female, making the delivery unexpected. Shingleback skinks have a 5-month pregnancy, so reptile keeper Emily Trainer said the mother was likely to have fallen pregnant while in quarantine with other seas lizards. Miss Trainer says both babies are in good health. And that's science.
And that's the program for this week. You can hop onto our website on wamnetwork.com.au for the latest news, or you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next week.
Good night.